A single domino can knock over another domino that's 1.5 times its size. Starting with a tiny domino just 5 millimeters tall, by the 23rd iteration, you could theoretically topple the Empire State Building. By the 57th domino, the chain reaction would stretch between Earth and the Moon. This isn't just physics, it's the hidden power of incremental progress, the science of transformation that lives within each of us. 10 years ago, in a small apartment in Brooklyn, Sarah stared at her laptop, overwhelmed by medical school debt and a dream that seemed impossible. Her hands trembled as she opened a new spreadsheet and typed in a number that seemed absurd: $2. That's all she could save each day by skipping her morning coffee. Most people would laugh at such a tiny amount, but Sarah understood something profound about human behavior. She knew that this microscopic action would reshape her neural pathways, restructure her relationship with money, and ultimately transform her life. Today, she runs a successful medical practice and teaches financial literacy to young doctors. You're sitting here right now because something inside you recognizes that same truth. You feel it in your bones. The potential for extraordinary change. But here's what makes this moment different. We're not here to talk about dramatic transformations or overnight success. We're here to unlock the revolutionary science of atomic habits, the fundamental units that construct the architecture of excellence. In the depths of the Amazon rainforest, there's a phenomenon that puzzles scientists. Some tree species can predict with remarkable accuracy when a drought is coming, not hours or days, but months in advance. They don't achieve this through some mysterious power. Instead, they accumulate countless tiny pieces of data through their leaves, roots, and bark. Each data point is insignificant on its own, but together they create a sophisticated early warning system that transforms survival into an art form. Your brain operates in a remarkably similar way. Every action you take or don't take is like a tiny sensor, collecting data about who you are and who you're becoming. When you hit the snooze button, your brain logs that information. When you keep a promise to yourself, no matter how small, your brain records that too. These aren't just actions, they're votes for your identity. Here's what makes this concept revolutionary. You don't have to wait for external validation to become the person you want to be. You're casting votes for your identity right now in this very moment. Every time you make your bed, you're voting for order and discipline. Every time you choose water over soda, you're voting for health. Every time you read a single page instead of scrolling social media, you're voting for growth. The science behind this approach is extraordinary. Research in neuroplasticity shows that your brain physically restructures itself based on your habits. Each time you perform an action, you're literally carving neural pathways, creating biological highways for future behavior. This isn't motivation, it's biology. Let me share something that changed my entire perspective on transformation. In a groundbreaking study at University College London, researchers discovered that the time it takes to form a new habit isn't the popular 21 days. It's actually anywhere from 18 to 254 days. Why such a wide range? Because transformation isn't about time. It's about repetition and identity reinforcement. This is where the magic of atomic habits comes into play. Just as atoms are the fundamental building blocks of matter, atomic habits are the fundamental building blocks of remarkable results. They work because they bypass the common friction points that derail most change efforts. Instead of relying on motivation, they rely on systems. Instead of focusing on goals, they focus on identity. Instead of demanding perfection, they demand consistency. Consider this. If you improve by just 1% each day, that compounds to a 37.78% increase over a year. That's not just mathematical theory. It's the precise formula that transformed companies like Amazon from an online bookstore to a global empire. They understood that excellence isn't about massive overhauls. It's about tiny, consistent improvements in identity and systems. Nature holds a profound secret in the migration patterns of monarch butterflies. These delicate creatures navigate thousands of miles with pinpoint accuracy, not through conscious decision-making, but through an intricate system of environmental cues. Their success doesn't depend on willpower or motivation. It depends on responding to precisely engineered signals in their environment. Your brain operates on similar principles. The most powerful changes in your life won't come from forceful willpower. They'll emerge from artfully designed systems that make excellence inevitable. This is where the 4 laws of behavior change come into play. A framework so powerful, it can transform any habit from a struggle into an automatic response. The first law, make it obvious. Your environment is speaking to you constantly, shaping your behavior in ways you barely notice. When a pastry shop fills the street with the aroma of fresh bread, that's an environmental cue triggering your behavior. When your phone lights up with a notification, that's another cue commanding your attention. But here's the revolutionary insight. You can become the architect of your environmental cues. A runner who sleeps in their exercise clothes isn't just saving time, they're engineering their environment for success. A writer who disconnects their internet before bed isn't just reducing distractions, they're designing a space where creativity becomes the path of least resistance. Consider this real-world example. In Amsterdam's Schiphol Airport, administrators reduced cleaning costs by 80% simply by etching images of flies in the men's room urinals. By creating an obvious target, they transform behavior without relying on willpower or awareness. Your environment can work the same way. The second law, make it attractive. Your brain isn't motivated by logic. It's driven by anticipation of reward. This is why social media platforms are so addictive. They've mastered the art of making engagement irresistibly attractive. But you can harness this same principle for positive change. Here's a technique I call habit stacking with pleasure. Link a habit you need with one you want. Want to build a daily exercise habit? Play your favorite podcasts exclusively during workouts. Want to master a new language? Watch your favorite shows with subtitles in that language. You're not just building habits, you're engineering desire. The third law, make it easy. In the African savanna, rivers don't forge new paths through sheer force. They follow the path of least resistance. Your habits work the same way. The easier an action is, the more likely it will become a habit. This isn't laziness, it's smart biology. Japanese manufacturers revolutionized production using the principle of reducing friction. They discovered that tiny reductions in effort led to massive increases in consistency. You can apply this same principle to your habits. Want to read more? Keep a book by your bedside. Want to eat healthier? Pre-cut vegetables and place them at eye level in your fridge. Success should be easier than failure. The fourth law, make it satisfying. Your brain learns through immediate feedback. A child touches a hot stove and learns instantly not to do it again. But most positive habits have delayed rewards. Health, wealth, and wisdom take time to manifest. This is why lasting change is so challenging. The solution? Engineer immediate rewards for long-term habits. Created a savings plan? Celebrate with a small reward. Completed your workout? Track it visually. Each small win releases dopamine in your brain, strengthening the habit loop and making continued success more likely. Think of Microsoft's Xbox achievement system. By adding immediate rewards, achievement points, to long-term gaming goals, they transformed player behavior. You can create your own achievement system for any habit you want to build. These 4 laws aren't just theoretical, they're backed by decades of research in behavioral psychology and neuroscience. When combined, they create what I call a success cascade, a system where positive habits become not just possible, but inevitable. Let me share a personal implementation that demonstrates all 4 laws in action. A client struggling with morning meditation transformed her practice by placing her meditation cushion beside her bed. Obvious. Playing her favorite ambient music only during meditation. Attractive. Starting with just 1 minute of practice. Easy. Marking each session on a visible calendar. Satisfying. Within 3 months, her practice expanded naturally from 1 minute to 30, not through force, but through carefully engineered habit design. In the heart of Barcelona stands the Sagrada Familia, an architectural marvel that has been under construction for over 140 years. When Antoni Gaudí took over the project in 1883, he didn't merely focus on the end goal of completing the basilica. Instead, he created a sophisticated system of architectural principles and mathematical models that would guide its construction long after his death. Today, even though Gaudí is gone, his system continues to shape every stone and spire. This reveals a fundamental truth about achievement. The quality of your systems determines the quality of your results. Goals are like coordinates on a map, but systems are the vehicle that gets you there. Most people obsess over their destination while neglecting the engine that will power their journey. Let me share a counterintuitive discovery from the world of elite athletics. In the 2012 Olympics, the British cycling team dominated the competition, winning 70% of the gold medals available. Their secret wasn't setting more ambitious goals. Every team had ambitious goals. Their advantage came from what they called the aggregation of marginal gains, a system of identifying and improving every tiny factor that could impact performance. They redesigned bike seats, tested different fabrics, and even optimized sleep patterns. Each change was minor, but their system ensured that these small improvements accumulated into overwhelming success. This principle extends far beyond sports. Consider the difference between two aspiring writers. The first sets a goal to write a best-selling novel. The second builds a system of writing 500 words every morning before checking email. After 1 year, who do you think will be closer to their dream? The goal setter might still be waiting for motivation, while the system builder will have generated over 180,000 words, roughly 2 novels worth of material. Here's why systems are superior to goals. 1. Systems focus on what you can control. You can't control if your book becomes a bestseller, but you can control your daily writing routine. 2. Systems work in the present. While goals exist in the future, systems operate in the now, where real change happens. 3. Systems remove the pressure of achievement. When you fall in love with the process rather than the outcome, failure becomes impossible. 4. Systems create compound growth. Like interest in a bank account, good systems generate returns that multiply over time. But here's the most powerful aspect of systems thinking. It transforms your identity. When you commit to a system, you're not just pursuing a goal, you're becoming a different person. A goal-oriented person says, I want to lose weight. A systems-oriented person says, I am building the habits of a healthy person. Let me introduce you to the concept of success scaffolding, a systematic approach to building habits that support your desired identity. Think of it like building a skyscraper. You don't start by trying to reach the top floor. You begin by creating a strong foundation and a reliable framework for growth. Your success scaffolding has 3 key components. 1, identity-based habits that align with who you want to become. 2, environment design that makes success automatic. 3, measurement systems that provide immediate feedback. For instance, if you want to become an entrepreneur, your scaffolding might include a morning routine that starts with reading business case studies, a workspace designed specifically for focused work, a system for tracking and analyzing your daily productivity, regular meetings with other entrepreneurs who inspire growth. This isn't just theory, it's the same systematic approach that transformed companies like Toyota from a small loom works into a global automotive giant. They understood that excellence isn't a destination, it's a system of continuous improvement. The Amazon rainforest teaches us a profound lesson about transformation. When a towering tree falls, it doesn't just create destruction, it opens up a skylight in the canopy. This gap allows sunlight to reach younger trees that were previously trapped in shadow, transforming what seemed like an ending into a beginning. Breaking bad habits follows a similar principle. It's not just about stopping negative behaviors, it's about creating space for new growth. Understanding the habit loop is your first key to transformation. Every habit, whether productive or destructive, follows a 4-part pattern: cue, craving, response, reward. Think of it as your brain's operating system. A late-night worker feels stressed, cue, desires relief, craving, reaches for junk food, response, and experiences temporary comfort, reward. The cycle isn't good or bad, it's simply a pattern seeking satisfaction. Here's where most people fail. They try to break bad habits through sheer force of will. But willpower is like a muscle. It fatigues with use. The secret lies in inverting the 4 laws of habit formation we discussed earlier. Instead of making bad habits obvious, make them invisible. Rather than making them attractive, make them repulsive. Instead of making them easy, create friction. Rather than making them satisfying, engineer immediate negative consequences. Let me share a real transformation story that illustrates this principle. A software developer struggled with a social media addiction that was destroying his productivity. Instead of relying on willpower, he systematically inverted the habit loop. He removed all social media apps from his phone, making it invisible. He installed software that showed him how much money he lost through wasted time, making it unattractive. He created a complex 30-character password that he stored in his office, making it difficult. He set up an automatic donation to a cause he opposed every time he logged in during work hours, making it unsatisfying. Within 3 weeks, his social media use dropped by 92% and his productivity soared. But here's the crucial part. He didn't just break a bad habit, he replaced it with a new one. Every time he felt the urge to check social media, he wrote 1 line of code for his personal project instead. This brings us to the power of habit substitution. Your brain craves the reward, not the behavior. Like a river changing course, you can redirect these cravings toward positive outcomes. The stress that drives you to stress eat can be channeled into stress-relieving exercise. The boredom that pulls you toward mindless scrolling can be redirected into mindful reading. Remember, nature abhors a vacuum. You can't just eliminate bad habits. You must replace them with positive alternatives that provide similar rewards. This isn't about deprivation, it's about redirection. Every time you break a bad habit, you're not losing something, you're gaining space for something better. Deep beneath the ocean's surface lies a phenomenon that perfectly illustrates the journey of personal transformation. The pearl oyster spends years gradually transforming an irritating grain of sand into something precious. The process is invisible from the outside, and for a long time there appears to be no change at all. Yet beneath the surface, layer upon layer of nacre is being deposited, creating what we eventually recognize as a pearl. This is what I call the plateau of latent potential, the period where your actions haven't yet created visible results. It's during this phase that most people quit, mistaking the absence of evidence for evidence of absence. They fail to understand that breakthroughs typically follow an exponential curve, not a linear one. Consider the case of bamboo in its early growth phase. For the first several years, the Chinese bamboo tree shows virtually no visible growth above ground. Yet beneath the soil, it's developing an elaborate root system that will eventually support its explosive growth. When it finally breaks through, it can grow up to 80 feet in just 6 weeks. The question is, did the bamboo grow 80 feet in 6 weeks, or did it grow 80 feet in 5 years? This understanding transforms how we view progress. Every habit you're building, every skill you're developing follows this same pattern. You're not just working toward a goal. You're building potential energy that will eventually create breakthrough momentum. The valley of disappointment is where champions are forged. It's the space between expectations and results where most people lose heart and turn back. But this valley isn't a sign of failure, it's a necessary phase of transformation. Just as a rocket uses most of its fuel breaking free from Earth's gravity, the greatest effort in habit formation goes into breaking free from your current identity. Here's what makes this concept revolutionary. Understanding the growth curve changes how you measure success. Instead of looking for immediate results, you learn to track leading indicators, small signs that predict future success. A weightlifter's increasing grip strength, a writer's growing word count, a business's rising customer engagement. These are the early signals that precede major breakthroughs. The momentum of accumulated habits is like a flywheel. At first, turning it requires enormous effort. Each rotation seems to yield little result. But with consistent action, the flywheel begins to turn under its own weight. This is what Jim Collins discovered in his study of great companies. Success doesn't come from one dramatic innovation, but from thousands of small improvements compounding over time. Consider how this applies to your own journey. Every time you follow through with a positive habit, you're not just completing an action, you're building momentum. Every time you resist a negative pattern, you're not just avoiding a bad choice, you're strengthening your transformation flywheel. When a spacecraft breaks free from Earth's atmosphere, it passes through a critical moment called max Q, the point of maximum aerodynamic pressure. It's the moment when the forces trying to tear the craft apart are at their strongest. In your journey of transformation, you're about to face your own max Q. But unlike that spacecraft, you don't need to wait for perfect conditions. Your launch window is now. Let me introduce you to the 2-minute rule, a principle so powerful it can literally reprogram your brain's operating system. The rule states that any habit can be scaled down to a 2-minute version. Want to read more? Start with 1 page. Want to meditate? Start with 2 minutes of breathing. Want to transform your fitness? Start with 2 push-ups. This isn't about thinking small, it's about thinking smart. When SpaceX revolutionized space travel, they didn't start by trying to land on Mars. They began with small, recoverable rockets and gradually built their way up to larger missions. Your journey of transformation should follow the same trajectory. Here's your immediate action plan, your launch pad for transformation. First, create your habit scorecard. Take out a piece of paper right now. Draw a vertical line down the middle. On the left side, list your current habits. On the right, mark each one with a plus, minus, or equal sign. Plus for habits that serve your desired identity, minus for those that don't, equals for neutral habits. This isn't about judgment, it's about awareness. Second, identify your keystone habit, the one habit that will create a cascade of positive changes. Like a master key that opens multiple locks, your keystone habit should trigger improvements across multiple areas of your life. For some, it's early rising. For others, it's exercise. Your keystone habit is as unique as your fingerprint. Third, design your environment for inevitable success. Clear your space of friction points. Make your positive habits obvious and your negative habits invisible. Remember, your environment is either conspiring for your success or plotting for your failure. There is no neutral ground, but here's what makes this moment unique. You're not just receiving information, you're standing at a crossroads of transformation. The next 2 minutes will determine whether this becomes another piece of forgotten advice or the catalyst for lasting change. Take out your phone right now. Set a timer for 2 minutes. In these 2 minutes, take one small action toward your desired identity. 1 push-up, 1 sentence written, 1 minute of meditation. This isn't about the action itself, it's about crossing the threshold from thinking to doing. Remember, every master was once a beginner. Every habit was once a single action. Every transformation began with a 2-minute commitment. Your journey starts now, not tomorrow. Not when conditions are perfect, but in this very moment. The question isn't whether you can transform, the science proves you can. The question is, will you take the first step? Your 2 minutes start now.